Welcome to the Courage Over Comfort podcast. I'm Sheilla Dare. This is the podcast that's meant to inspire you to step into your courage and out of your comfort zone, because that's where we learn and grow and find out what we're truly capable of. It's outside the comfort zone where all the magic happens. In today's episode, we're talking about pushing yourself beyond your limits. My guest is Willie Brown. He's a registered holistic nutritionist, 500-hour yoga teacher, and holds a Bachelor of Science in Zoology from the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada. When Willie was only 21, his father passed away, which contributed to a substance abuse issue that periodically would get out of hand under times of stress and discomfort. After a 5-day bender in New Orleans, he had a deep desire to become sober. And at that time, a friend of his encouraged him to sign up to run a 25-kilometer trail race. He did, and he became hooked. He just recently ran in the New York City Marathon, his first marathon, which leads us to today's conversation. Willie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sheila, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's safe to say that for most of your life, you've had the pleasure of living in comfort. However, you've discovered the meaning in the suffering that you experience when you run long distances or plunge yourself into cold water or basically do anything that scares the bejesus out of you. I think it's safe to say that you have discovered the meaning behind living outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, it's definitely something that has pulled me in now that I've been doing crazier and crazier things, or things that appear to be quite uncomfortable or are quite uncomfortable until you go and you do them and you experience them and the after effects.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, congratulations on completing the New York City Marathon. That's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an awesome time, awesome experience.
Yeah, you shared some Facebook videos while you were running the marathon, and you started off in the beginning and you were like 4 mile in and you were showing us your progress. But I've got to say that what touched me so much was your last half mile. You took us on the journey with you of running those last few steps. I want to know what you felt when you crossed the finish line.
Yeah, when I crossed the finish line, I felt like relief in a way, or even like, it sounds kind of funny, even like a shred of disappointment, like, that's it. Come on, there's more. Let's keep going. Like, I was ready to just keep going. I felt like for that last stretch, I mean, I started feeling pain probably halfway through, and then significantly more and more pain was building up. And I just felt like I can take it. Like, it wasn't like the pain was actually unpleasurable or impossible to manage. It was like, once I decided to just not attach to the pain, it wasn't an issue anymore. So I just said, okay, now I can keep going. So that finish line to me was just like a break until the next further finish line, the next race.
That is so awesome. Well, I've personally never run a marathon. The longest I've run was a 5K, and I walked some of it. So when I see people who are doing their first marathon like you did, it's so inspiring to me. You also mentioned that you weren't focused on your time. Mm-hmm. You were more focused on starting slow and finishing strong. So is that basically how you tackled the marathon?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I had never even run the distance, whether you want to, 26.2 miles or 42.2 kilometers. That's definitely the longest I'd ever run in my life. And so I knew that in order to complete that, and that was my goal, was completion, that I would need to, really manage my energy, really manage my mental state as well. So I started off really slow. Everyone in my group was pulling ahead of me, and I was like, see you guys later. I'll see you at the finish line. I'll pass you at the end. And then I started with a guy, an awesome human being, who had a David Goggins quote on his shirt. I was so lit up by it. What would Goggins do? And I was like, this guy. So we ran together, and then he and another fella took off. And after a few, miles into the race, and I was like, guys, I'm pacing myself. You do whatever you want. And I knew in my mind, I was like, I'm going to see these guys again. I'm going to blast by them. And I did. Right at the end, I blasted by my buddy Ricky, and he's like, there was a question of maybe we'll finish it together. Let's finish together. But he's like, I'm hurting, man. I'm hurting. He kept saying, I was like, dude, I'm hurting too, but I'm going to go. Let's go. So I just finished on my own, and I went really fast.
Right. Well, I think what you said a few moments ago about detaching from the pain and just shifting your mindset is huge.
That's exactly it. Like, I knew that if I just kept on acknowledging that my feet are killing me, my knees or my, whatever, my calves, because those were the really brutal spots. If I just kept on focusing on that and saying like, frustration, anger, then that certainly wasn't going to support me. And really the opposite, instead I just decided to focus on, I don't know, I guess just how incredible it was that I was continuing to run faster. I was like, screw this, I'm going to run faster. Screw this, is hurting me, I'm going to try harder now. So that was really something that it was like truly like leaning into it. It didn't matter how hard it was. Harder was better.
And prior to the New York City Marathon, what is the longest distance you had run?
I actually had run close to that distance up in Algonquin Park, which is, I believe, the biggest or oldest provincial park in Canada. And so we ran in April over snow, and it was about, 39K. So 3 kilometers short of a marathon distance, but it was over the course of about 6 hours. So a much longer period of time. And we had some breaks in there. And by the end of it, I was completely done. My body was so roasted. And the last 5 miles or 5, let's say miles, whatever, were on the road. And it was brutal. I've never been in such discomfort and pain before from running. But that was it. And so I guess I got a preview of what the marathon was going to be like.
Yeah. And it didn't discourage you from doing the marathon.
No, I knew that there was going to be some pain. And given that it was all road, because my orientation, what I'm into more so is the trail running. And the reason why I signed up for the New York City Marathon was really, it was an opportunity that was presented before me. And I actually backed out of a 50K race that was the weekend previous, instead choosing to complete the 25K version of that race, which was a trail race. And yeah, when we're running on the road, it's a lot different. It's flat and it's much more, I think there's an element of being in nature that really supports us more. Just the way that the terrain is uneven. So you're slower and you're not just smashing your feet against concrete or pavement. You're getting more give in the earth. But I think that makes it harder to run a road race sometimes than a trail race.
Yeah, I would assume running a trail race would be more difficult because of the uneven terrain, and you have to be more mindful of what you're doing. When you're on asphalt, there's no obstacles except yourself, basically.
Well, the reason why also, you have something to occupy your brain, because you have to look at where you're going, right? You're constantly looking around, and really, it's just a beautiful, I would say, spiritual experience being in nature. Oftentimes you're alone and you're just right in the depths of nature. So you're hearing animal life and whatnot. Whereas I was running with 50,000 others and there was just like unlimited screaming. And the only thing I could do is keep going left, right. And
very monotonous.
Yeah, it gets, I think both have their, there's ways that you can look at it. I like the natural side of things.
You had mentioned when you started the marathon that it was all of the excitement and the cheering fueled you in the beginning, but then mile 5 or 6 in, there's none of that. It's just you and the pavement, and you have to just keep going. Yeah,
there were some barren points along the route. The most notable, the most challenging was I guess it's called the Queensboro Bridge, entering into Manhattan. So from Queens to Manhattan. And it's a long, gradual, but still quite steep incline. And there's no one on the bridge, and it's windy. And all you hear is footfall and breathing. And then there's people off to the side that are stretching, that they're taking a break. And you're like, do I do that? Do I want to stop? I can tell you, I didn't want to stop. I stopped as little as possible along the marathon, just because I knew from that Algonquin Park experience when I ran like almost 40K then, when I would stop to walk at the end of that run. And oh my goodness, when I started up again, it was agony. So stopping is not really, that's what actually kept me going a lot too, is knowing that if I stopped, it would be worse. So just keep going.
And that you trained considerably through all of your runs prior to the marathon. So you knew what your own limitations were and you knew your body very well. So
Yeah.
the fact that you knew that going in is important.
Yeah. And I would even say that, if you were to look at my Strava account and looked at what I logged, I didn't really hit all my training goals. So again, that was more reason for me to be like even more mentally prepared for marathon day, just because I knew, okay, like you got, maybe 70% of your training in, but you didn't do 100% of what was prescribed to you I had a running coach, or somebody who was becoming a running coach. So she helped me out, which was nice. And I got a routine, but yeah, not getting all the training in was definitely kind of, scared me a little bit too.
Well, yes. So what kind of training did you do leading up to the marathon other than just the races you've done prior?
Yeah. So training for any marathon or any kind of running, event, you've got to run. And the way that you do that, there's different types of runs that you can do. So you can run a tempo run. So that's different speeds. So you say, oh, I'm going to run this distance. I'm going to do it like 10 times. And I'm going to run at this pace. So you're working on your pace. So you're basically doing these like temporary, like, I don't want to say sprints, but you're picking up the pace and you're intentionally working on building your confidence and your abilities to run that pace. There's hills. So that's pretty self-explanatory. You just keep on running up hills. You can do hill repeats. So you run up the hill, then you walk back down, or you saunter back down, then you run up the hill. And that tires you out really fast. Then there's like an easy run, which is you run it really easily. It's like a joy. It's like you're out for a stroll. And usually those are longer because you're running at a lower heart rate zone. And then you have a long run, which is actually the longest, of course. And that's where you build that confidence with the distance and you build your aerobic capacity. So you're doing that at a lower pace as well. And so I wasn't getting some of those long runs in. And I ran like a 30K or a 29K long run, let's say about a month before the marathon. And my goodness, I certainly was in a world of pain after that. And I was like, how am I going to do this? I just remember running it and being like, Bill, this marathon is going to be 10 times harder than you're feeling right now. Like, just keep pushing it. But yeah, that's what you've got to do. You've got to really make those training runs count. Just like every time you get out there, every time you tie your shoes up and you throw on the heart rate monitor, it's go time, and it's give everything, right? So that's what I did when I'm running. That's my biggest, I think, tip too, is just to really get in the zone. Don't half-ass it when you're training. Like, even though I did for some of it by not getting all my runs in, I still, when I was doing my runs, I made sure I was focused and I did what I needed to do.
Yeah, even when you maybe some days didn't want to.
Oh yeah, and there's definitely those times and feelings like, I could just hang out here and watch some more Netflix or YouTube or whatever.
Isn't that so much easier than putting on your running shoes?
Yeah, but then you feel like shit after because you didn't, you feel guilty. And I've certainly experienced those feelings for long enough. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna run. I know that what I've learned about running, the first few K or whatever, the first bit that you get into it, it's always there's a high chance that it'll suck. And then you get into it and you get into your groove and then you're good.
You posted on Facebook a video of you after the marathon in your hotel room with all of your bags of ice waiting for you to do your ice bath. But you were so happy, so joyous. Even hours after the race ended, you were still on that runner's high. And it was so nice to watch that happiness in you from completing the marathon. The video you shot when you were crossing the finish line, I welled up with tears for you when I saw you cross the finish line. It was so moving. So thank you for sharing that with all of us on that day.
No, for sure. I wasn't planning on doing any of those videos or anything, but I think for what, I've got some other videos, some other lives that I've recorded over the last few months. And to me, it's a way to connect with people, to inspire people. And also it's like a journal for me as well. I figured it would be a great way to to have memories of the race and then to show others like, hey, this is a marathon. I'm running it. I'm talking to you. I'm not like dying here.
And that's exactly what I thought when I watched your videos. I thought, Wow, he can run a marathon and still speak coherently, and those are some goals for Sheila Dare right there.
Yeah, that's one way to measure intensity of training. How easily can you keep a conversation? It's also a joy to have friends who are runners so that you can hang out and run. So you can go for a run and chit chat while you're running, and you're getting like, oh, we just ran 20K. Wow, where is the time gone? I've enjoyed our conversation, but we just ran 20 kilometers. Like, this is nuts. That's why I just want to spread the word, like, get out and run. The more people that run, the more running partners I have. And then I don't
Right.
think about
And
running.
I loved that you shared how many people you saw running the marathon with disabilities or less than ideal physical health conditions. You commented on that in your video, and it just is a true testament to what you can do when you decide to do it.
Yeah, there was all sorts of people out there on the course, and my time wasn't anything to be like it was a pretty typical, or I would say like a good first marathoner's time of 4:40. But there were people out there that were running in the 7 hour mark and longer, I think. And I know one woman in particular was like in her late 60s, and that's unbelievable. For one, to be at that point in life and to be running marathons. I know some people that have started in their 50s and they start to run at that point in life, but also considering that how much it hurt to keep moving for 4 hours, 40 minutes, she was doing it for 7 hours. I just can't imagine that. And then you have the pros and the others, sub-elites and elites that run at like, around the 2 hour mark. I mean, they're pushing themselves to their max, but they're running for 2 hours. So I don't know, maybe
Right.
it's easier for them.
Oh, well, and even the woman who took 7 hours during the marathon was still pushing herself beyond her limit to do that.
Yeah.
And it's so admirable because oftentimes we're just so comfortable with where we are. We don't realize how much we're actually capable of. Yeah, I've only ran as far as a 5K in my life, but it's not because I can't do more. It's because I hit a wall. I'm like, okay, let me just go back and watch Netflix for a while, like you said. But I definitely know that I am capable of so much more, as we all are. And you're proving that by everything that you are doing, because it's not just marathon running that you're doing to get out of your comfort zone. You do a lot of other things as well in your daily life, like plunging into ice cold water. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Sweet. I love talking about ice cold water.
Explain, please.
Yeah. What is the point of going in cold water? Well, cold water is really, really unpleasant. It's really uncomfortable. I've invited my friends. Some of my friends are like, okay. And then others are like, no, 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 no. I can see the fear. They're just so resistant. They just hate the idea of going in cold water. They're just so not wanting to do it. And that's the whole point, is to do something that biologically and intuitively we're like, that's death. I go in cold water, I die. I feel cold and then I freeze into an icicle. Don't do that. And it takes a lot of will and a lot of focus. And yeah, I would just say those two, mainly focus primarily, to go in there, get a calm mindset and continue to breathe as you submerge yourself up to your neck or however deep, and to just be calm and keep that breath flowing. And I guarantee you that if you can do that, you can stay in that water for much longer than you realize. It's just like with the running. The first little bit is really tough. Even for me, like I've run like a 700 kilometers, I think, this year, which by the way is like nothing compared to what many others are doing in the ultra marathon world. The beginning is the toughest part. When I start to run, I'm a little stiff. When I get in the ice bath, I'm like, you feel that rush. You feel that like alarms, you feel the alarms go off and it's telling you get out, get out. But then you just kind of ignore those alarms and you just breathe, find that place of calmness, and you can totally just settle into it. And that's really what it's all about, is just being able to settle in.
And it's like, for how many minutes?
This is where lots of people might say, hey, I'm crazier than you, or I'm better at leaving my comfort zone than you, so I'm going to stay in there for way longer than you. I've been told that 2 minutes is really what you need to concern yourself with in order to get like the maximum benefits. Anything more than that is sort of like ego. So far, I think the record for staying in ice for the longest is like an hour and 40 minutes. It might be a bit longer. It was just recently set by this Austrian dude who beat the Dutch Iceman, Wim Hof, and the legend. So Wim's been usurped. So Wim Hof he's from the Netherlands. He's set all these crazy world records with his ability to resist cold temperatures and to do really mind-bogglingly scary things. He's the reason why I've started doing this now, as I've discovered his Wim Hof method, which is a combination of breath work, ice, plunging, and meditation.
Yeah, I've seen some of Wim Hof's videos. And when I watch his videos, I think he just is an elite human. But then I know other people like Billy Brown who does ice plunges. It's all about learning and understanding how to do something and why you're doing it. You're not just getting in to say you did it. I mean, you're doing it for the benefits of it and for the discipline of it. So what benefits does your body get out of doing an ice plunge?
So many. So the main one big benefit is the fact that when you get in there, it is like huge shock to the system. It's death, imminent death. What are we going to do? Okay, we need to shunt blood internally. We need to bring blood to the core where it's nice and warm, where it's nice and protected and insulated, so that we can preserve our core temperature, we can keep our organs operating and everything chugging along as normal. So what that does is that actually really benefits our circulation. So we have a lot of constriction of our blood vessels at our exterior of our body, and that's exercising those muscles, the muscles that line those blood vessels, that squeeze. So you're actually really improving your circulation. So if you are somebody who gets cold more easily than others, then the best thing you can do is to have cold showers or get in the ice water and do that, make it part of your routine. And you're probably listening to me right now and you're like, oh my God, man, no way. I get cold so easily. That's what's going to help you, is to get more comfortable with the cold. And, we've lost touch with our animalistic ways where we were almost always exposed to the environment. We were always exposed to the elements. Now I can just close my door. I can put on like 5 Snuggies and I can crank the heat and watch my Netflix and then order Uber Eats. And then just, you know what I mean? I could just never leave my house. I'm super comfortable in my own little bubble of comfort. So this is a way to break out of that. Also, when you get in cold water, you are stimulating your hormones. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details, but ultimately what you're doing is you're exercising your hormone system. So I'd have to have prepared before our conversation to remind myself exactly what's happening. I know that there's definitely adrenaline that's released, and there's, when adrenaline's released, when adrenaline shows up, like things really start to change quickly. And like I said, there's that change in the blood and the capillaries and the constriction that helps with circulation. But because you are causing such a rapid release of hormones, you are basically, I like to just say, you're exercising the system.
Yeah. So after you've done an ice plunge, how do you feel afterwards?
Oh, you feel amazing. It's really similar to like a run. There's a rush of release of endorphins, a release of endocannabinoids, which is what you get when you exercise.
So learning how to do things that push us in a positive direction that are beneficial to us, like exercise or like the ice plunge, or, all of those things that are incorporating healthier things into our life. I know you do things often to get out of your comfort zone. I know like physical fitness is one of the big ones for you. Anything else you'd like to share that you're currently doing?
I've taken some personal development courses over the last year or two. And in those courses, in those group sessions, I guess you could say, whenever there's an opportunity to like share, put your hand up, I would always share. And it's scary. And that was the beginning, I think, for me. I was coming out of my comfort zone for sure. It's easier to just sit there and wait for someone else to do it and be like, oh, they'll never know my dirty little secrets. But I took advantage of that, took the opportunity to like just strip down. Here I am, stand up in front of everybody, say what I've got to say. I've got some stories of shame and guilt, things that I was holding on to, that I was letting affect me. And by having that attitude of like, just like, hey, I'm here. I paid the money to be here. This is what I know, that this is going to serve me. I know that it feels uncomfortable or really scary to like tell people my secrets,
Being
but
vulnerable is
yeah,
scary. You're
yeah,
definitely getting out of your comfort zone when you are sharing parts of you that are not your best self and
yeah,
sharing it with other people who could possibly judge you. That vulnerability is scary. Absolutely. Because you're also speaking your truth and you're saying it out loud and you're not hiding it anymore. Once it's out, it's out.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that is like really what, we're missing. Of course, we have these low quality social interactions, these low quality relationships using social media and other digital platforms. And of course, we're not just having the same quality of relationships that we had before. And so it's more attractive to wear a mask and to not be as vulnerable. We're afraid of being judged and all that kind of stuff. So people hold more stuff in, and you know how it goes. So it's just it's nice to be able to stand up and just kind of lay it out and feel that relief of just speaking your truth. Yeah.
And it's so much easier, like you said, to just stay in your shell and not say anything to anyone. But when you open yourself up to other people, it gives you a validity, a sense of humanness that other people can understand. Wow, I'm dealing with that too, or that's something I would like to try, or whatever it is. When you become vulnerable, you allow the space for that deep human connection that we are often missing, for what you said, with the way that we connect with each other through superficial mediums like social media. It's so nice to be able to sit and have a real conversation face to face, looking somebody in the eye, and have that connection. And the only way you can get that is by opening yourself up and being vulnerable.
Yes, 100%. What we're lacking. I mean, we used to sit around campfires at night, if you want to go back further, and that was how we would spend our evenings and our mornings, and a lot of our life would be sitting in a circle, or telling stories, telling legends and myths, or we were just always talking about various things. And so we had that close connection with each other in our tribe and our families. That's something that creates a healthy human, is having close relationships and the freedom to speak completely,
Yes,
fully. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So, Billy, what is next for you and your journey of pushing your limits?
Yeah. So my big goal right now is running further and further. I've got a year, I suppose it's a date because it's a certain race. It's called the Great Canadian Death Race, and it is 125 kilometers. So, what is that? Maybe 80
It's
miles?
77.67 miles.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that. Okay. And it is through the Canadian Rockies. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a wild, wild time. So I want to run it. And my friend and I are going to do it together. The same guy that encouraged me to run in the 25K. We're going to do that in like 2 years. So we've got 2 years to train for it. So I'm going to keep running more and more ultra marathons, longer than a marathon distance. Got a 50K that I'm going to do in April in my hometown. Hopefully there's still some snow on the ground, so it's extra hard. And then there'll be another 50K in May. And I'd love to get into doing the Spartan races too.
Are those obstacle course races?
That's right. Yeah,
Spartan
they're
races?
obstacle course. Yeah, so you can't just rely on being an endurance athlete. You've got to also be like able to lift your weight up and cross monkey bars and climb walls and stuff, which I suck at. I can't do that. I don't have that kind of upper body strength quite yet. So yeah, I'm going to be building that over the winter to work on that before May. That's when it is in Montreal. That's where I'll be for that Spartan race. Yeah. I just, thanks for having me on. I really am grateful that that you found me to be an inspiring individual, and that you wanted to do this podcast episode. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You are very inspiring in what you do every day, because it's not just, it's who you are. It's not just what you do. It's what you do consistently every day has made you who you are. And you are an absolute inspiration to me. So thank you so much for being my guest on this show today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Billy, tell listeners where they can find you.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, I am active on Facebook. So if you just search me, Billy Brown, you might even have to throw in my hometown name. That way you'll definitely find me. If you just throw in Aurelia at the end of my name. That's Orilla. Billy Brown Aurelia. You'll definitely find me. You can follow me there. I do have a website that is up and live, and it is billybrown.ca because I live in Canada. So you can find me there, and the listeners will see that I also have an entirely other life that is related to my company called Eat, Learn, Grow, which we didn't even touch on today, which is okay because we can always do another episode all about food and our food system and how to grow food and all that kind of fun stuff. But that is another spin-off project of mine that I'm currently working on as well.
Well, I look forward to following your journey and your next race. Make sure you share with us what's going on in the world of Billy Brown. Thank you so much for being on the Courage Over Comfort show today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
After we stopped recording, Billy and I continued to chat for a while, and I asked his advice on how I could get back into running. Now, mind you, I've ran a couple 5Ks in the past, but they were years ago. And about 12 months ago, I did a mile a day for 30 days challenge. So every day I ran a mile for 30 days. And at the end of the month, I felt amazing. But still, it was just a mile every day. I seem to plateau at the 1.5, 2 mile mark, and I can't figure out how to push myself beyond that wall to get to something like a 5K. So I asked him about it, and he encouraged me to just simply look for 5Ks in my area and sign up. Because once you dedicate to that date and to that upcoming race, then you have something to look forward to and a reason to train. So I took his advice and I searched some in my area, and I came across a really fun race that I signed up for. It's in Anaheim, California. It's called the Foam Glow 2020 5K race. It's taking place at Angel Stadium in Anaheim on March 28th, 2020. And it's a nighttime race, and what you do is you show up in all white, and as you're running the 5K, you're running through glowing foam with tons of backlight everywhere. And then there's this awesome foam glow after party. So my goodness, what a fun way to get back into running and to really take charge of my fitness again. So Billy was right. As soon as I signed up for this, I got really excited. But at the same time, I am a little ashamed to say I'm super out of shape. I haven't worked out in quite a while, and I was kind of figuring out how I could do this. So another friend of mine told me about the Couch to 5K program. So I downloaded the app on my phone. It's C25K. And basically, it's an app that helps you get off the couch and get eventually to run your 5K. It's an 8-week program where you run 3 days a week, and the app guides you through different intervals and different lengths of running, and it's gonna get me to that finish line on March 28th. So I'm really looking forward to it. If you are in the Southern California area and you would like to run with me, please go to their website and sign up. It's foamglow.com and get in contact with me. You could reach me on Instagram at Sheilla Dare, send me a message, or you can email me at courageovercomfort@mail.com. I'd love to connect with you. And if you're not in my area and this episode has inspired you to find a 5K in your area, I'd still love to connect with you. Let's support each other. Let's lift each other up, and let's get out of our comfort zone and make this happen. When I opened the Couch to 5K app today, a really awesome quote popped up. It said, "Losers visualize the penalties of failure. Winners visualize the rewards of success." I am visualizing myself crossing that finish line. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, rate 5 stars, share it with someone who you think this also might resonate with. And again, I'm just so grateful that you are on this journey with me. I'm Sheilla Dare, and I encourage you to live outside your comfort zone. Until next time.